Well, hello, Julien. How is your evening? How is the City of Lights in this beautiful area? Is it a beautiful evening? And how are you doing?
Good morning, Max. It is not a bad evening, actually. Not a bad evening, because I've been scratching my head, couldn't find a single story of my own. The mailbag was empty this week. And by the way, keep them coming. We no longer have
Please.
stories in the mailbag, so please keep them coming. So I was hoping maybe you had something, and you kind of said last week you may have a travel story, so I'm thinking you probably have one.
I have a true travel tale of woe. And
All right.
it's a government story. So another one. Well, not quite. I was going to say it's kind of like the IRS, but it's not really. So I went
Quite a teaser
to
you've
it.
got there.
Pardon me? What did
Quite a
Yeah,
teaser
there
you
you go.
got.
I went to India, and when traveling from the United States to India, you must have a visa, and they have a very nice online process to request the visa, and then you get 4 days. You submit it, and their SLA is to turn it around within 4 days. And it was 3 weeks before I went. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do the form. So I went in, and boy, was this a form. The user interface was clunkier than the clunkiest you've ever seen. Pop-ups would come up in the strangest of places. And the formatting stuff was just hellaciously done. It asked for, in one case, you had to declare your company and a contact in country for your company. And then you had to declare for a person you were visiting. This was, I had said I was doing it for meetings, which I was. The company you're visiting, their address, and a phone number for it. And they had one field where you were to put in the address and the phone number. And it was a very small field. So first I was trying to do, the full with the address and the state and everything. And then there was no space. I couldn't even finish all that, much less put in the phone number. I mean, in one field, whoever does that? And then I finally widowed it down to just the street address and the number. And that was still not short enough. So I just came up with a very abbreviated street address, put in the number, and it's international. So I'm plus 91. I now know the country code for India. And it couldn't handle the plus. So it just was, that was just one field. And it took me 12 tries to figure out how to make that field happy. So I've filled in the information as best I could.
Just a question for me to understand here. Why would you type the country code? I mean, I guess the form is for the Indian government. They probably know their own country code. They probably don't need that.
Well, but one of the company that I was visiting, the only contact I had there was in the United States. So I did give a U.S. number for that one. So I fought this form, and then you had to upload a image of a photograph of you and a PDF of the main page of your passport and a PDF of your business card. I've been in this job 18 months. I don't have a business card. Fortunately, I have PowerPoint, so I made myself a business card, but so I had to jump through a hoop like that. I had to, my picture, I've got a picture for work, so that wasn't a big deal to get that. And the passport stuff was pretty straightforward-ish. The picture of me had to be a JPEG. The other two had to be PDFs. They had a very arcane process to identify what I was going to do and then upload the file. And the file size requirement was very, very small. And the second time I went through this, I found the thing where it said what the size was, but it was not obvious. And it was something where I'm sure 3/4 of the people who do it the first time, they come up with a file that's too big. So it just was, I mean, it took me 5 tries to get the form filled out the first time. And very rare and occasional places where you do a save and continue, which thank God. And then ultimately you submit and you have to pay. And the payment processing options they had were arcane and difficult. Finally, I realized there was PayPal and I was able to use that. So getting this whole thing filled out was a nightmare. Just pure D, a nightmare. The next day after I submitted, I got a form back that said, here are the problems with your thing. And the phone numbers I gave, I went to my company's website and the company I was visiting website and took the main number off the website. And I don't know if they called and, I didn't think they were going to call, honestly. I don't know if they called and they said, who's Max Ball? Never heard of him. Or if they just couldn't even get through to anyone. But so I was rejected on both of those because the phone number, I don't know, they didn't like something, but whether it was the format of the phone number or they called and didn't get a satisfactory response. And I didn't have the invitation letter that was required. I went back and I looked at the instructions and it may be there, but I spent 5 to 7 minutes looking. Nowhere did I see you must have an invitation letter. I must have a business card, must have this, must have that. Nothing about the invitation letter. So, and then I'm working with people in India and I'm going through this and I'm like, have you seen this? Is this a common requirement? They're like, oh yeah, that's an absolute requirement. And they actually, Forrester has a way to help me get that. But I don't know how I'm just supposed to magically intuit that. So it got rejected. Then I went back through the process all over again and got everything filled out. And I wanted to save and continue so that I had all the files uploaded because I was going to end up doing this on an airplane. And I wanted to make sure that it was going to be, I wasn't trying to upload a file from an airplane where it's, paper thin straw that you're moving the data through. And the final thing where I did the save, it turned out I resubmitted again. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I've submitted. And it came to the payment thing and I'm like, well, I already paid and I'm not going to do that right now. So now I'm a couple days later, it's now 6 days. This process took many, many days. And now it's 6 days or so before I'm supposed to leave. And it's a 4-day turnaround for the thing. So it's getting very tight. Of course, I'm requesting from my company to get the letter of introduction. The people who do it are on Singapore. There was a holiday in Singapore the day they were going to be making it for me. It's all becoming very, very stressful whether I'm going to get this pulled off or not. Somebody stepped up, they did the letter for me, all that worked out. And then I was traveling and I was in Dubai before I went to India, and I was calling the contact center. And the first time I called, got somebody the first call, right within a minute. And saying, hey, I don't understand, how do I include the invitation letter? And I want to make sure, are this types of phone numbers okay? And he was like, oh, you haven't paid. I'm like, well, I know I'm not going to pay until I understand everything that I'm going to submit. He's like, well, I can't help you if you haven't paid. And I'm like, well, okay, help me figure out how do I go to pay, because now that this thing is opened, I no longer get the button that says pay. So he showed me that, and it's kind of like, okay, so pay and then we can talk. All right. He literally, I tried charming him, I tried yelling, nothing worked. That's the way it was. So I did that. I couldn't pay because I had done a previous one that I did pay on, and the system thinks I've paid because it has that previous payment. And the system he's looking at says, no, I haven't paid. So I can't do the payment, but I was able to get the information on the payment. So there's a way to submit a question through email. So I did that, and I had, a document of here's the number, here's the payment, here's all that information, and here's my question, here's what I've done, am I okay? Never got a response to that of any sort. So now I call back. I just talked to the guy. I'm thinking, well, it'd be fun. Maybe I'll get the same guy. I get in. It says there's nobody available. Please hold. Every minute, it says no one's still available. Do you want to continue to hold? Press 1. If not, interestingly, it's press 9. They don't say hang up. It's like, why would I press a button to say I want to hang up? Why wouldn't I just hang up? But that's beside the point. And after about 20 minutes or so, it just hung up on me, of having to just every minute tell it, yes, I'm here. So I called back 2 or 3 more times. And again, I'm in Dubai, calling into India. And then I got a message from Verizon, my wireless carrier, saying, did you know you just spent $125 calling India? Because I had no idea, I'm paying some sort of international calling thing, but I guess this is a special type of call that isn't covered by that. So now it's like, I can't even sit on hold. This is really a long, painful tale of woe. Sorry, I didn't realize this would take so long to tell. But I can't pay to get on hold. So now I get my research associate in the States and 2 of the people from India calling on my behalf and I got with a sales rep on a call or on a car ride, and I'm like calling in from there. Interestingly, a couple times when it answered, it would say our average wait time right now is 3 minutes, and then it goes into the same holding thing, and there's no difference between that and the one. They were all 20 minutes, and eventually would hang up. It took 3 days of concerted calling before anyone was able to get through. It was the research associate. The person apparently was great. Within 3 minutes, I gave her the emails and all this stuff. Within 3 minutes, everything was solved. The next day, I got my thing. But that's my tale of woe.
Wow.
I need a pat on the head and a cookie or a lollipop or something. This was painful.
Well, talk about bad experiences. So there's obviously tons of things that went wrong here, but just before we get into this, and I will leave aside the terrible formatting and the terrible system and the lack of information, but just talking about the insane number of questions and documents you need to gather. Have you ever tried to go to the US as a non-US citizen, buddy?
No, I haven't. All right, so let's hear who's without sin past the first stone. Is it?
So, I don't know how many times I've been using your name, personal number, and address, and all of this just to put on the document explaining why I'm going to the US. Because, they ask that. I don't know about France. I don't know about other countries. But, the US is a pretty similar system. Probably not with a personal photo, but definitely photos of the passport. You need a bunch of documents. Can't remember if you need your business card or something similar, but you definitely need something there. The contact information, all of that is what you need. On top of this, as soon as you get into the country, they're asking you whether you're a farmer, whether you're a terrorist, whether you're planning on selling drugs, whether you're planning on killing the president.
I was asked most of those. Yeah, that was part of it.
So, but the formatting is very good. The US system makes it incredibly quick and easy and straightforward. You pay only once. The payment is ridiculously low. It's super simple. But those dumb questions, not just India is doing that. You should.
Okay, fair enough.
Without your ID card. Now, to the system, it really feels like they have not upgraded their system since the 60s. They probably did it on their very first home computer. Decades ago.
That's about right.
I mean, the whole thing, the lack of field, it really feels like they've never tried their own system themselves, because
It
the fields
sure
not
does.
matching is really impressive, because they probably have hundreds, if not thousands, of requests a day. So they definitely have received some feedback that it's not working.
Yeah. I mean,
And
can
they're
you
not doing
imagine
anything.
being the agent who every single one of these, they got the phone number, they got this field wrong
Mhm.
again. Somebody would just start screaming and saying, I'm spending 10 hours. I bet you people spend 10 hours a week just dealing with that one field being so convoluted.
So there is this is terrible, but I mean, what else to say? But go fix it, guys, because there's, I mean, it's not just the customer experience that is incredibly poor. You are leaving tons of money on the table with that, because
Yes.
a better system would make it so much easier that you would not need that many agents and that much fixing and that much troubleshooting and all of that. So yeah, you should do this from a customer experience perspective, but even if you don't care at all for your customers, which again, it's a monopoly situation. Hey, you want to go there, that's the only path. So,
Yeah.
happy or not happy.
Actually, I'm glad you said that because, yeah, it's kind of a monopoly situation, but it's not like we always joke with the IRS, where I'm a citizen of the US and I have no choice. As a business person, I can say, it's just too much trouble to get to India. I've got people in the Philippines I'll work with instead. Now, it's a
All right.
stretch. It's not nearly that bad, but it's not quite as captive.
But and I mean, even if you ignore completely your customers, again, from a business perspective, that is a terrible way of managing things. You're definitely losing money by doing that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
and no, go ahead.
sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I have another thought, but you first.
Well, I was just going to move to the next topic, which is the phone calls. And again, we had similar discussion last week. They had no other options. I mean, first of all, when I'm in the US, I would expect to have a US number. When I'm in Dubai, I would expect to have a Dubai number. Not necessarily, I mean, it's not an airline, so I get it might be more complex, but do I really? You must have a local embassy I can call. Why do I need to make international calls on your working hours to try to fix that? That's
Right.
pretty crazy, because it costs tons of money and is highly inefficient. I mean, waiting for 20 minutes, pressing the same button every minute, listening to the same message 20 times or more to finally get someone or a system hanging up on you. We did not do that in the 80s. Why doing this now? And that's, again, a terrible customer experience.
Yeah. That was truly unbearable. At least the music was innocuous. This is about the only thing I can say about it. And it wasn't that it was good. It wasn't that bothersome as it might have been.
So I don't know what to, I mean, go and fix your system. It's really the only piece of advice you can give at this point. It's drink your own medicine, test it, figure out how
Right.
complex and
Right.
insane it is, and calculate how much money you leave on the table by not doing things right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And the other thing is, halfway through this process, I realized if I had said I want a tourist visa instead of a business visa, that's apparently a much simpler process, and I wouldn't have been asked all these. So the other temptation is for people to just misrepresent their trips, which doesn't help India in any way, shape, or form,
sure.
because it's just such a hassle to do it the other way.
Well, I'll take that into consideration if I ever need to go there,
Yeah.
and I'll share my feedback at this point. Again, I'm sorry, but beside fix your system, I mean, they probably need a consultant of some sort helping them understand why it's wrong, and most importantly, why it's wrong for themselves, it's not, if not their customers, because this is terrible. That is definitely terrible.
Yeah, I
And I'm
agree. And
sorry you have to go through that.
well, this one last week, I had moral dilemmas overstating it, but I was kind of trying to figure out what my role in something was. This was just purely, like I said, can I have a cookie or a lollipop or something? I have post traumatic contact center experience.
Well, hopefully the next story will be slightly more positive. Actually, listening to you talking, I suddenly remember two other travel stories of my own. So I'm afraid we're going to have to stick to that theme for a while longer. And I'll try to bring you another travel story of mine next week, which is, in a way, way better than yours.
Okay,
Less
good.
painful,
Well,
let's
I
say.
would, boy, if you had one that was worse than mine, I would want to hear it. That would really be something.
Thank you so much, Max. Thank you for sharing your story, and I guess I will just prepare mine for next week then.
Sounds great. Okay, thanks, Julien.
See you then. Bye.
Bye.